Hey guys, welcome back to Ramen Study. On today's video, we've got a voiceover once again. This time, I will show you guys how I take notes on my iPad for my two favorite subject types, art history and languages. This video was voted on by you guys as the next video you wanted to see, so thank you for voting. It's been very long overdue. Feel free to grab a cup of your favorite drink and let's get on to note-taking. I have different note-taking materials like my Kokuyo Campus Smart Ring binders and notebooks, Kokuyo Campus notebooks, and the iPad. For today, I will be showing you how I note-take using my iPad, as I only use the paper notebooks when studying languages, and that, I believe, requires an in-depth video of itself on how I study languages, which is coming very soon. The iPad I use is the iPad 10th generation with 256 gigabytes of storage in pink, and I use this very handy glittery case that I found on Amazon. Alongside my iPad, I use the first generation Apple Pencil, and for comfort, I have a little pencil grip which I use for when taking notes so my fingers are more comfortable. And finally, sometimes I switch between pencil tips depending on how I'm feeling. For my note-taking app of preference, I am using GoodNotes 6. As you can see, I have many folders here as I have been using GoodNotes for approximately 4 years now. For this tutorial, I will make a new notebook for you to see how I do it. I prepared my very own B6 covers and note papers in both dark and light colors. They are basically made like the Campus Kokuyo notebooks that I love so much. I wanted some cohesiveness between my paper and digital notes. Now that I have created a notebook, I will pick out a color scheme that goes with the notebook color. I have highlighter colors and pen colors. In terms of the heading, I downloaded a calligraphy font named Muthiara for Roman alphabet using notes, and the Hanyi Senti chalk for Chinese and Japanese notes. I just type my title and add a note of the chapter, lesson, or unit number on top. It is a quick and simple way to do this, but for example, if I am on a lecture, I will just leave these lines empty and write it down so I can write the heading later when I revise the notes. In terms of pen sizes, I use 0.35, which I use mainly for Chinese simplified characters and kanji, 0.4 for my normal typing, and 0.6 for headings. This way, it's very simple and easy for me to remember. For highlighters, I only use one size most of the time. Once I have my title written, I write down a main header. For my notes, I mostly use bullets as it is simple and easy for me to write. Under the first bullet, I either use another bullet or an arrow for extra or additional information on that main point. If I have some important subheadings, I would usually write it down in another color and underline it with a highlighter so it catches my eye very quickly. I also number things in this way. For art history, for example, when we talk a lot about different art pieces, I like to leave a space during an art lecture so I can find a picture of the piece online and add it to my notes. It makes things a lot easier when revising them. This is basically all I do when taking art history notes. For language notes, I will use an example in Mandarin. I do things very differently as I only take notes on my iPad for grammar and vocabulary. I revise text readings on another notebook. I only like to keep a database of vocabulary and grammar structures here on the pad so that I can just use as a guide when I am practicing sentences on my own. The first thing I do is add the heading of the lecture, just like with art history or any other class. For vocabulary, I just write down the header and head on to the notes. I like to number the vocabulary words by order I've learned them in, and then I add a quick note on what it means and the type of vocabulary it is. If it's a verb, noun, pronoun, you get the gist. Under the vocabulary word info, I like to write an example sentence of how I can use the word. I personally use the sentences provided by my textbook so I can reread and practice by myself later if I have any questions or need guiding. Also, if for example the vocabulary word can be both a noun and a verb, I will also write an example on how to use each specific word type. For the grammar section, in this case, the header of each subsection would be the formula, as I like to call it, for the grammar structure. I like to write down a quick explanation of the grammar structure and what it means or what its function is. Then I like to write down 2 examples given by the textbook and I translate them. This helps me to practice by myself in my practice notebook, where I make my own sentences when practicing by myself. Finally, if a structure, for example, has an alternative structure to it, which I already know, I will write it down. Or if it has a negative version of it, I will also write down examples of that specific structure. These are the notes we wrote today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that this was helpful to you, and I will see you guys next week. Don't forget to eat well and stay hydrated.